You know, no one ever wakes up thinking to themselves that they might get their limbs amputated by a hat, but that is going to happen on this Fatal Friday. Good morning, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. Welcome to this thing that I do call Thor's Entertainment. I am Thor. And welcome to Fatal Friday, a series where I look back on videos where I casually went into the Kombat League trying to get the unique finishers like Brutalities and Fatalities for the various Mortal Kombat 1 characters. The character this week is going to be Kung Lao, and I am highlighting his fatality titled Lao'd And Clear. Supporting Kung Lao is going to be the kameo Goro. Although Goro really does not end up doing a whole lot, I don't really successfully use him a whole lot in this match, but still, he is going to be there. The opponent that I got randomly paired up against was somebody using Homelander along with the kameo Khameleon. And I believe Homelander was pretty new around this time. In fact, not long before that I had recently recorded all of my Homelander gameplay, but eventually I switched characters and I found myself using Kung Lao, which I think Kung Lao was 2 characters after Homelander, but still all of that took place in the same season. Now, Homelander has a lot of zoning tools, like he has a standing laser, a low laser, airborne lasers, so if he really wanted to, he could try floating around in the air and avoiding you the entire match just shooting at you. With that in mind, Homelander can be a very annoying opponent. I really wanted to avoid letting Homelander run away or fly around the entire match, and even though Kung Lao is not exactly helpless whenever it comes to zoning, I doubted I would win a projectile war against Homelander. I ended up losing the very first round of this match, but the end of the round gave me a small victory. Fortunately for me, the first round ended with Homelander being put in the corner. And going forward, I would try to keep him there for the rest of the match. Now, Homelander has some things he can do up close as well, but I was way less concerned about those options than I was those damn lasers. So I just tried to keep pressuring him up close. This ended up not making the biggest of differences, at least not compared to what I was hoping for. It was still a pretty okay difference, considering I don't really think I would have won if I just resorted to zoning against Homelander, but I wasn't getting any big combos against him. The few combo opportunities I had, I ended up dropping, or Homelander would just go ahead and armor through it, so it kind of ended it before I could really get going. And then in return, I was taking damage from Homelander, and we're just chipping away at each other little by little. Neither of us really gained all that much of an advantage, at best just getting a couple of throws in or maybe armoring through some attacks, until we were both eventually below 30% health, and the winner of the round really could have been either one of us. So yeah, staying close and keeping pressure on Homelander was about the best plan I could come up with. That plan ended up just barely working out for me. By the end of the second round, both of us were basically one hit away from defeat, but I was the one lucky enough to manage to hit him before he hit me. That close victory had us tied 1 round apiece. The match would be determined by a third and final round. And this is where things got funny, because my performance is really nothing special in this fight. It is actually probably my worst recorded Kung Lao video whenever it comes to my execution. But even so, something happened that I can both relate to and I find hilarious enough to use this footage. Homelander ends up with a very good life lead, and victory seemed like it was going to be a certainty for him. And that was the point that he decided he was going to start fishing for a very specific brutality. It was Homelander's ear slap brutality called What Happens If. That is a brutality I have even highlighted in a previous video. Now what Homelander is doing is something I have done plenty of times. I would get a big life lead and then I would just go for a specific brutality over and over again until I would eventually get it. Or well, on some other occasions, sometimes, I would be so stubborn going for a brutality, just determined to try and check it off of the list of finishers I had to do, that I was willing to throw away the entire fight going for it. So I'd continue to go for it and fail to get it until eventually my opponent came back in the fight. That has cost me matches I had no reason to lose, and this Homelander got to experience exactly what that was like for himself. I had no business winning that third and final round, but my opponent was just screwing around so much, trying to get that brutality, that I made possibly my most undeserved comeback of all time. I clung to 0.09 health. That is out of my 950 point health bar. So I won with less than 1/100% of my max health. And all I can say is I've been there, Homelander. I've been there. And whenever my opponents have made comebacks like that against me, while I was just kind of screwing around and trying to get a brutality, all I could really say was congrats for the win. You can only play the person on screen opposite you, and if that person screws around and loses, well, the win still counts. At the end of the day, that person was not doing what they needed to win, and you did just enough to win. So good for you. Suddenly, for once, I found myself on the opposite side of that exchange, and it is kind of hilarious. When the second match started, Homelander was no longer cornered and was free to go airborne or jump around, just really doing whatever he pleased. Even so, my plan remained the same. I had to try and keep Homelander close if I wanted any kind of a shot at winning. Unfortunately, that ended up just being a losing effort in the first round because Homelander ended up winning. In the process, I would end up using all 3 bars of my meter to use a breaker so that Homelander would not defeat me, so that was already pretty bad considering I went on to eventually lose. But then I would have the opportunity to land a combo that maybe would have won the fight for me, or at least got it really close, but I end up dropping that combo. Making matters worse, we were still basically in the middle of the screen where he could just still continue to run around or jump around wherever he wanted. So that was not ideal, but turns out in the second round, that evasion and zoning was really not much of a factor. Homelander was coming after me, not really flying around or jumping away from me. He wasn't really landing any major combos against me, but he was interrupting everything that I wanted to try doing. Every time I tried going for a combo, it felt like he was just armoring his way out of it, and I was just taking a bunch of damage but not dealing nearly enough back to him in return. Then suddenly I was on the verge of death, and Homelander had plenty of life to spare with about 80% left over. So around this point, I figured I was just going to have to settle for going into a third and final match because I thought there's no way I'm going to manage to come up with another comeback against Homelander. I'd already done it once before in the previous match. I was not going to get that lucky twice. Surely he wouldn't start doing, say, the exact same thing he did before. And then suddenly it happened again. Homelander really wanted to spam that ear slap and try to get that what happens if brutality, but I was not letting it happen. Then, little by little, I chipped away at his health until I could do a combo that should have completed my comeback, but I ended up dropping it in the corner. That gave Homelander one more chance to close out the match, but I ended up securing that round instead with a throw from Goro. And all I can say is just, wow. My opponent squandered huge leads going for that brutality twice, and on both occasions I came back to win with only 0.09 health remaining. I don't think I could have been much closer to death, and somehow that did not matter twice. And that's all because, assuming I counted this right, he went for the ear slap brutality 13 times, allowing me to get 2 different ridiculous comebacks. And going into the third round after that, the tables had completely turned. I only needed one more round to win the entire set. And after that throw from Goro, Homelander was cornered to start that round. And he never really managed to get away from me from that point forward until I eventually defeated him, and even though he went for 2 finishers unsuccessfully, I will make sure to give him a finisher to watch here, that way he does not have to leave disappointed.
Fatality! Kung Lao wins.
There you have it, that was the Lao'd And Clear fatality for Kung Lao. And yeah, this had 2 probably undeserved comebacks, but my opponent insisted on not closing out the fight and fishing for a brutality, and it ended up kicking them in the butt later on. That's fine with me though, a win is a win, and we can cross a Kung Lao finisher off of my list. Speaking of which, I'll be sure to show the Lao'd And Clear fatality one more time at the very end of this outro, then we can enjoy it one more time before we part ways on this Fatal Friday. But yeah, I have definitely thrown away some fights trying to go for a brutality just like Homelander did on this occasion. That's especially true if we're talking about some of the more difficult kameo brutalities, because I can't just go for that over and over and over again because of the kameo gauge. On many occasions I would try going for one of these more difficult brutalities and then I would run out of kameo meter, and then I would have to jump around and run around like a jackass waiting for my meter to completely refill, and then I could go for the brutality again. And yeah, doing all that, it's definitely led to a few losses. But it's bound to happen whenever you're really determined to end a fight in a really specific way. You don't really care if you win, you want to win in a specific way. Anyway, enough about that. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to check out the other things I have on the Thor's Entertainment channel. I do have other finisher videos just like this. Those can be found under the Fatal Friday playlists. Those are separated based on the years that the videos were released. And other than the Mortal Kombat stuff, I've also played through other games as well, like the remakes of Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, the remasters of Crash Bandicoot and Soul Reaver, and a couple other things too, so if any of that sounds interesting to you, feel free to check it out. Regardless of what you choose to do, thank you for watching this video for this long. Take care, hopefully I will see you in the next one.
Kung Lao wins.